Well, this is pretty ugly. Let's make it less ugly, shall we? Yes, David, that'd be fantastic. I agree. Well, we're developers, and although we know some CSS, we might benefit from using a CSS framework. Has anybody used Bootstrap or Foundation or Material Design or something like that? Who's used one of those things or a different one? Okay, one person, two people. What have you used?
I used Angular Material once.
Angular Material? Bootstrap. We're going to use Foundation in here. It's a lot like Bootstrap, but different. We can read all about it at foundation.zerb.com. We could download it from there, or we could link to a CDN to get it, which is what we're going to do. Let's look at the documentation for it. Sites or emails? Yeah, sites is what we're doing. Here we go. Welcome to Foundation 6. I'm going to throw this link in Slack for your reference. Installing it. There are many ways to install Foundation, but if you're just getting started, we have a few suggestions. A command line tool, blah, 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 blah. Manual setup, blah, 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 blah. You know what? I don't want to download it at all. Ooh, good. Cdn Links. Anybody know what a CDN is? Yeah.
Something that you can add in your HTML. I don't know what it technically is, but I know that you can link to it in the HTML header.
So, yeah, basically linking to it without hosting it yourself. So CDN is a content delivery network. It's a really fast, redundant, robust host out there. A lot of libraries and frameworks and things offer a CDN so that you don't have to host that file yourself and download it, put it in your project. You can just link to their copy, which is nice for a variety of reasons. One reason is that if a particular user goes to several sites that all link to the same framework or library on the same CDN, they don't have to re-download it because it's the exact same URL. So it'll already be cached, and that can save them some bandwidth, which adds up. It also saves you the bandwidth on your host if you link to the CDN. So let's do it. The folks at CDN host the compressed Foundation CSS and JavaScript for us. Just drop one of these tags. So Foundation includes some style sheets and some JavaScript. We don't need the JavaScript, but the style sheet would be nice. So I'm going to copy this link tag here. Whoa, look at that. I'm going to paste that link in Slack as well. That's maybe a little more complicated than we need right this second. But a link to a style sheet goes in your head. So I'll just put that right at the end of the head here. Gosh dang. That's maybe overkill. Here's what I'm actually going to put in. Link rel style sheet. href equals this big long URL. And then I'm just going to close it. Link is an empty element, has no closing tag. Now, if I didn't screw that up, when I refresh the page, it should look at least a little different. It does. My inputs are huge. Person stats is in a different font. Everything's hugging the side of the page. Doesn't look great, but it does look different. So I know that the Foundation CSS is being implied. If you want to be able to read this a little more easily, we could put some line breaks in between our attributes and indent them. And when I do that, I tend to put the closing angle bracket on a line by itself, lined up with the opening. little bit like you might do with curly braces or something, just to make it clear where this ends. And that's a pretty common style in React, actually, which we're going to be using, so that's the style I'm going with here. Just makes it a little easier to tell how many attributes I have, because you can't even tell when they're all in one line, whether I just have the two or a bunch more. So that's how I'm going to style that. Make sure I didn't break it by doing that. Yay. So, as small a thing as that is, I'm going to go ahead and commit just adding foundation before I start writing a bunch of custom CSS. So what do I need to do? Where is that change right now? Here in my working directory. So if I want to commit it, first I need to add it to Git's index so that it is at least tracking that thing. So git add. I will add dot. Now it's in Git's index, but it isn't a permanent part of my history until I commit. Git commit, message, add, foundation CSS. Yay, now it's part of my history. If I do a git log, there it is. Add foundation CSS. Hit Q to get out of that. But it's still on my laptop. I want to be on one of my remotes, specifically GitHub. So I'm going to git push. Hooray. By the way, I clear my console quite a bit so that it doesn't clutter it up. You can do that on a Mac with Command K. On Windows, that would be Control L. Linux also Control L. Control L. You can also just type clear. Those same shortcuts work in the JavaScript console, by the way. Command K or Control L. Sometimes it can be really, really hard to keep track of what you're doing otherwise.